I want my daughter's final wishes to come true. She wished to be buried in pink and black, and I'm gonna make that happen. I give anything to hold my daughter right now, to touch my daughter. The feeling of me knowing I can't never call my daughter, her phone, her number is stored in my phone, like, that shit hurt. That shit hurt. That shit hurt. I would never be able to hear my daughter's voice again. Never.
In the mid-hours of September 23rd, 2025, a tragedy took place that left a community in shock and disbelief. A 23-year-old would die moments after planning her funeral on Facebook. To the outside world, she was just another young woman trying to make a life for herself and her children, battling through the unseen struggles of betrayal, exhaustion, and the weight of single motherhood. But behind closed doors, the cracks were beginning to show, and the heavy toll of her daily battles was wearing her down. On that fateful day, after a period of silence, she returned to Facebook. Her post, hauntingly simple and cryptic, offered no signs of distress, no cries for help, just a few words that seemed to hint at what was about to happen. Little did anyone know, this would be the last time they'd hear from her alive. What happened in the hours that followed? The truth would leave her loved ones reeling as the shocking end to her life unfolded in a way no one could have ever predicted. This is the tragic life and death of Zine Sylvester.
They think, listen here, and I'll be every bitch up on my best friend, and I'll be who the fuck you is, sister, cousin, uncle, mother, and that. Don't put me. For real. Don't put me. Thank you.
23-year-old Zine Sylvester, known as Nucky Sylvester in Facebook, hailed from Toledo, Ohio, and had a beauty that made heads turn whenever she entered a room. Her presence was so captivating that it was as if the world paused for a moment, taking in the wonder of her existence. It wasn't just her looks that drew people in, though Zine had a warmth and charm that made her impossible to ignore. Those who truly knew her saw beyond the surface. She was sweet, caring, and had a magnetic personality that made her everyone's friend. To her family and close friends, Zine was a beacon of light, a young woman with dreams as big as her heart. She was the kind of person people assumed was destined for greatness. The kind of person who, from the outside, seemed to have it figured out. She had everything going for her: intelligence, beauty, and a spirit that made others believe she was on the path to something big, something permanent. She attended Boucher High School, where she was well-liked, popular, and had a promising future ahead of her. Life seemed like it was just beginning, full of promise and endless possibilities. But at just 16, Zine's world would be rocked. On December 15, 2018, she became a mother for the first time. A decision that was supposed to mark the start of a beautiful chapter in her life, instead became the defining moment of her youth. The man she thought would be her partner forever, the father of her child, was supposed to be there by her side, but, as is far too common in the lives of young women, forever was over almost as soon as it had begun. The relationship crumbled, leaving Zine to raise her child alone. In the blink of an eye, she found herself navigating the complexities of motherhood without the help of the man who had promised to be her partner. At a time when most teenagers were still figuring out who they were, Zine was faced with the enormous responsibility of raising a child. No one had prepared her for this. It wasn't supposed to be this way, but life doesn't ask for permission to throw curveballs. But Zine was determined not to let her circumstances define her. Despite the challenges and hardships, she carried on. There was no blueprint for how to be a mother at 16, but she figured it out as she went along, learning how to juggle diapers, sleepless nights, and schoolwork. No one could have known then just how strong she was, but Zine proved herself time and time again. She didn't want to be defined by the difficult circumstances she was in. She was more than her struggles, and she was determined to show everyone, including herself, that she was capable of more. Fast forward to May 25, 2024, and Zine gave birth to her second child. Another baby to love, another challenge to face. Just a year later, on June 1, 2025, she welcomed her third child into the world. Still only 23 years old, Zine had already lived through more than most people her age could imagine. While other young women were enjoying the carefree days of their 20s, Zine's life had been marked by sacrifice, struggle, and heartache. The weight of raising multiple children, coupled with the burden of a broken relationship, began to take its toll. Raising children at such a young age was never meant to be a time of joy. It was a time of stress, exhaustion, and emotional strain. She had more responsibilities than most adults, and the constant pressure seemed overwhelming. Zine found herself trying to hold everything together, but it wasn't easy. The world around her kept demanding more than she could give, and with each passing day, it felt like the walls were closing in. Her partner, the man who should be sharing this burden with her, was nowhere to be found when she needed him the most. He wasn't just absent physically, he was absent emotionally as well. His promises had become empty words. He was never there to help with the children, and his absence was only made worse by his constant betrayal. Cheating wasn't just a mistake, it was a constant reality that weighed heavily on Zine's heart. For a time, she fell quiet. To the casual observer, it seemed like peace. But to those who truly saw her, it was the calm before the storm. Then, on August 24th, she resurfaced on Facebook, her words charged with intensity. This time, she wasn't just venting. She wasn't complaining. She was demanding recognition. She wasn't the baby mom, as she declared. She was the custodial parent, the primary parent, the one who had to show up every day, regardless of how broken or exhausted she felt. Zine's words, sharp and honest, made it clear. She was a fighter. She was not just a victim of her circumstances. She was the person in control of her children's fate. She was the one holding everything together, even when it seemed impossible. Zine's post wasn't just a statement, it was a declaration of power and pain. It was a message to the man who had failed her so many times, a message that carried the weight of all the disappointment, heartbreak, and struggle she had been living with for so long. It was raw, unfiltered, and unapologetically honest. In the post, she tore into the man who should have been her partner, calling him out for the way he treated fatherhood like it was an afterthought. Her words were blunt, but they were also a cry for recognition, because Zine wasn't just the mother of his children. She was carrying their future on her shoulders alone.
As she laid her soul bare for the world to see, Zion's frustration and pain poured out in her words. Yet even as she spoke out, it was clear that nothing in her life was changing. The situation remained the same. Her partner was still absent, her responsibilities were still overwhelming, and the weight on her shoulders continued to increase. Each betrayal felt like a blow to her already fragile world, adding more pain to an already unbearable situation. Zion's reality wasn't the romantic vision of motherhood that so many young women dream about. Instead, it was a cycle of disappointment, loneliness, and heartache. She had dreams, big ones, but those dreams had to take a back seat to the overwhelming responsibility of raising children and keeping her life together. No one tells you that being a mother means sacrificing your own happiness to make sure your children have what they need. No one tells you that being young and having children can be a lonely, exhausting experience. In the midst of this, Zion's light, so bright and full of potential, began to dim. Every day she was running on fumes, trying to give her children the best life possible while fighting her own demons. No one knew just how much she was suffering, because on the surface she kept it together, as so many young mothers do. But behind the smiles, Zion was carrying a heavy burden that no one could fully understand. On her 23rd birthday, Zion should have been celebrating, but it was just another reminder of all that she had been through and all she was still carrying. The milestones that should have been joyful, the first birthday of her second child in May, the birth of her third in June, were not filled with excitement, but with the exhaustion of motherhood. At 23, Zion was barely hanging on, balancing 3 children, 2 jobs, and the daily strain of living under the weight of so many expectations. Then came the silence. For a while, Zion disappeared from social media. The posts that once filled her feed with raw emotions, updates about her kids, and life's little victories stopped. To the outside world, it might have looked like peace, but to those who were paying attention, it was the calm before the storm. The silence said everything that words couldn't. Zion was overwhelmed. She was tired, and perhaps she didn't know how much longer she could continue to fight. What Zion would share just days later would shake everyone who knew her to their core. On September 23rd, Zion returned to Facebook. This time, her message was different. The post she shared that day was cryptic. There were no angry words, no cries for help. Instead, it was a simple message that left everyone who saw it reeling with uncertainty. She shared a small, intimate detail about herself, one that most people would find innocent or endearing. The moment Zion's post hit social media, the shockwaves were instant. Some people dismissed it as another emotional outburst, a call for attention. Others who knew Zion better recognized the signs of someone who had reached the breaking point. It wasn't just the post. It was everything that had led up to it. The years of struggle, the repeated betrayals, the sense that no one was really listening to her, even though she screamed in silence. But hours after Zion's final post, the unthinkable truth surfaced. Zion was gone. Her mother, in an act of heartbreaking confirmation, took to Facebook to share the news. The words were simple, but heavy. Zion had passed away, and her family was devastated.
Young women these days, they get involved in these men, and they get their hearts so tied up in these men. And I try to tell my kids, understand the difference, you know, the difference. And love and lust. Because a man can lust you but don't love you. But sometimes they think it be love, but it really don't. Then when y'all be with a person for so long, then they start realizing, like, this is not who I want to be with. Huh? You know, especially these young guys, you know. So I ain't gonna say all of them, but 9 out of 10, when you meet a young guy and y'all together at an early age, man, that's not gonna work. You know, it's not, because he's gonna get curious. He's gonna be like, damn, I've been with her for so long, I wanna go try something new. Then that's the cheating involved, her feelings getting hurt, or she cheating on him, because I ain't gonna blame it all on the man. It's vice versa, you feel me? Especially when you're young and you're trying to build a family and create a relationship at a young age. And I tell all my girls, don't do no relationship, man. I'm not telling you to be a no, but I'm telling you to live your life. You got all your life to when you get older, to settle down, to play that marriage shit. You got a whole life ahead of you before you even think about that. And I even tell my sons that. You got your whole life. Not unless you find that one person that you really, really want to truly be with. But at the end of the day, at a young age, I feel like you shouldn't want to settle down and do that, because eventually somebody gonna want to explore. And that means somebody hard gonna get hurt. At the end of the day. You know, I tried to be there as much as I could and tell her, you know, she had babies.
Hey, Mom.
And there was nothing that I can tell her after that point. Because now y'all done created a family. Okay, then. Y'all done created a family. So I can't tell you to leave this man alone. But what I can tell you is don't put up with no bullshit. Because at the end of the day, let me tell you something, I ain't being funny. And I promise you I ain't being funny. And I don't even know this is a part of, Facebook. If this is a part of Facebook regulations. But at the end of the day, we as women rule shit. They said the men, but no, that's a lie. Women rule shit because guess what? At the end of the day, you are a woman. What you got in between your legs, a man is always going to chase. So what that motherfucker won't do, another motherfucker will. Flat out. Now, the only bad part is that we don't have what we had back in the day. You know, that options, that how the men had the 10 women, it's 10 women for every man. That's not like that because nowadays so different that half of people gay, half of our men is in jail, half of them dead. You know, the pickings are slim and it's slim. I want my daughter final wishes to come true. She wished to be buried in pink and black. And I'm going to make that happen. I give anything to hold my daughter right now. To touch my daughter. The feeling of me knowing I can't never call my daughter her phone. Her number is stored in my phone like... That shit hurt. That shit hurt. That shit hurt. I would never be able to hear my daughter's voice again. Never.
The woman who had fought so hard to raise her children, to carve out a life despite every obstacle in her way, was no longer there to fight for them. No more struggles, no more late nights, no more silent tears as she tried to make the best of a broken world. Zion's mother, in the midst of her grief, ensured that Zion's final wish was honored. She wanted to make her daughter's wish come true, and Zin's request was simple. She wanted to be buried in pink and black, her favorite colors. Her mother promised to fulfill that wish in her memory. The pain in her voice was undeniable, the deep ache of a mother who had lost her daughter far too soon and too tragically. But the mourning didn't stop there. Zion's mother reflected on the memories she had with her daughter, the moments she would never get back.
You know how many times I wanted to give up? But I knew I couldn't because I had kids. And I wish she would have thought about them first. I really do. I wish she would have thought about her kids first. My baby got 3 kids and 1 3-month-old. Like, come on now. I just wish I could have knew her final thoughts, what drove her to it.
The hardest part of this loss wasn't just the absence of Zion. It was the understanding that she would never hear Zion's voice again. It wasn't just a loss, it was a permanent silence that would never be filled. Her final message, her final words, were all she would have left of Zion. As Zion's mother reflected on their conversations, she recalled how Zion used to call her at 12 p.m. every day, like clockwork. They would talk as Zion walked to the store, a small, seemingly insignificant ritual that became a symbol of the closeness they shared. But now with Zion gone, that simple act was a memory she could never relive. Zion's absence felt even more profound in those small moments, in the mundane routine of daily life that was now empty without her. And as the reality of the loss set in, Zion's family was left to grapple with the why. Why had Zion felt like she had to leave? What had pushed her to that breaking point? Her mother wrestled with those questions, unable to make sense of the darkness her daughter must have been feeling. It wasn't a matter of blaming Zion for her choice. She didn't. It was the overwhelming sense of helplessness that came with not being able to provide her daughter with the support she needed in her darkest hour. But Zion's story is one of many. It's a story of a young woman whose life was marked by hardship, abandonment, and constant battle. The weight of motherhood was compounded by the emotional turmoil of an unfaithful partner and the pressure of trying to make a broken relationship work for the sake of her children. Too often we hear about the struggles of young mothers, but Zion's case is different. It's a tragic reminder of how deeply emotional strain can affect someone, and how, without support, it can drive a person to places they never thought they would go. Her mother's pain, as raw as it is, reflects the heartbreak of so many families across the world. Zion's death was not a simple tragedy. It was a reflection of a systemic failure, a failure to provide the emotional support that young women like Zion need. It's easy to point fingers, but the truth is far more complicated. The truth is that this could have been prevented if there had been more resources, more people willing to listen, and more help available to young mothers like Zion who were struggling in silence. As Zion's mother shared the intimate details of Zion's life, her love for her children, her desire to provide for them, and the overwhelming strain she carried every day, it became clear that Zion was a victim of more than just personal circumstances. She was a victim of societal pressures that expected women, especially young mothers, to carry the weight of the world without asking for help. Her death, while deeply personal, was also a reflection of the systemic issues that too many young women face when trying to survive in a world that offers them little support. The painful reality is that even though Zion was a fighter, she wasn't able to survive the battle on her own. She didn't have the emotional tools or support network to manage the pressures that were mounting against her. And in the end, her strength wasn't enough to carry her through. Zion Silver's story is a heartbreaking reminder of how society often fails the very people who need the most support. The most heartbreaking part of Zion's death is the effect it will have on her children. At such a young age, they are now faced with the reality of losing their mother. They will never fully understand the depth of what her mother went through, but they will grow up without the love and guidance she could have provided.
And while their mother's love will always be with them, the pain of her absence will forever mark their lives. Zien's mother is determined to make sure her grandchildren know their mother's love. She is fighting for them, ensuring that Zien's legacy lives on through the care and love she gives them. But as a community, we all need to take responsibility for the future of these children. We need to make sure that Zien's kids have the opportunities they deserve, opportunities that should have been available to Zen herself. Zien may be gone, but her legacy lives on in the memories of those who loved her. Her children, her family, and her friends will carry her spirit with them. They'll remember her as the woman who fought for her kids, who was determined to survive, and who gave everything she had to make sure her children had a better life. As we reflect on Zien's life and the tragedy of her death, we're reminded of the importance of support systems, of the need to step in when someone is struggling, to listen when they reach out, and to never underestimate the toll that emotional strain can take on a person. Her story isn't just about one woman. It's about countless others who are living in the shadows, carrying burdens that no one sees, and fighting battles they don't know how to win. Zien's fight was real, but in the end, it was a fight she couldn't win alone. What do you think about it? Let us know in the comments below. And if you found this story intriguing, please like, share, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this.